Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You are in for a treat today. We are fired up. It's a fired up live session. We're going to wait for some people to filter in. We got the flames going as usual. And welcome LinkedIn, welcome Facebook, welcome Fed Nation, welcome YouTube, welcome. Today, we are going to be speaking with Sidney Lara. He is with Aquant. Many of you may know him from Rationale. If you're following along in the service industry, you would have to know him, especially if you're working with Rationale. And we are not going to keep you any longer. The suspense is killing people out there. I can feel it. So I think we've given this enough time. People are going to filter in. We're going to jump in. The new normal in food service. What is this going to look like? How is data important to service companies? We're going to have some back and forth. We want your questions. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome Sidney Lara to the live stream. There he is.
How are you?
I am doing amazing. How are you doing this morning?
Good. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, me too. So, Sidney, obviously a top-notch service professional, knowing that, working with you in Rationale. And you've made your way over to Aquant. So for the 3 or 4 people watching that are saying, who's Sidney? Give a little background on where you came from, what you're all about, and how you landed at Aquant.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Rich. Sidney Lara. Hope to get to know more folks and through these communities. But yeah, most recently in the food industry, probably 5+ years with Rationale. Running services for the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. But historically, I come from, for those out there who remember wet toner copiers, I started as a field technician working on copy machines, eventually running into operations and then back into field service. So a very broad background, operationally minded, but service orientated, and I have a passion for solving problems. I think that's why I led into the career of field service, and eventually now into Aquant. As Rich said, for those that know me, I'm kind of the guy who's always looking operationally to optimize and solve problems. And I think naturally the product, not to plug the product here, but had a natural fit for me in helping customers optimize their operations and service operations.
Yeah, and listen, let's feel free to plug the product because I think people need to know what's out there, and I think. There's probably a lot of, especially in the service industry, there's probably a lot of people sitting in their office that are wondering what's out there and not really sure where to look or how to find it. So this is definitely a platform for the service industry at large, for sure, to see the technology that's actually out there and is available to them. Because I think a lot of times they just don't know. So Aquant, just from on the about, Aquant learns your organization's unique service language and builds an AI-driven decision-making framework by analyzing your siloed and unstructured data. Elevate your workforce into superhuman customer ambassadors with Aquant. So, and I remember talking with you about this on the Leader Summit, where it's like you have that data, and now what do you do with it?
Yes.
We'll definitely talk a little bit about that, and starting out, I think we'll say, what do customers want from a service provider?
Great question, Rich. When I think about the question, I try to get away from being a vendor solution or a manufacturer and be the customer, right? You as a consumer, what do you want, right? And I think that what comes to mind to me is communication at the forefront, right? If you think about in our world today, what key leaders are doing, I hate to plug Amazon here, right? But why do you go to them, right? Because it's easy. You know what you're getting. You get an instant email confirmation. You know when it's being shipped. That they're constantly plugging you and they're informing you, and it gives you a great customer experience, right? So bring us over to the food service industry, right? Being a manufacturer in the past, right? Working with service companies, a lot of our large customers always wanted us to comply with their systems. Did you accept my request for service? When are you coming? Did you get there on site? When did you complete the job, right? So customers want to be able to know that, because these facility guys are not at the point of the failure. they're managing the operations like you and I would, right? So communication is at the utmost forefront. Before we talk about service excellence, if you can communicate with the customer timely and effectively, you're going to put them at ease. So to me, that's what customers are looking for: consistent cadence communication.
Yeah, something I can't agree more. And when we're talking here in this building with our 15, 16 techs and our team, and we're saying, Malachy cares, and we're trying to drive that home. At the end of the day, I tell them care equals communication. And it's so true. I mean, listen, we live in that world of we want to know right now instantly. Uber, you get Uber Eats, we're following our food to our doorstep. We want to be in the know. And, but I think people are willing to pay for that. They want, listen, look at how much we pay for McDonald's cheeseburger meal. It's like $50.
It is.
We do it because we want to listen. We know exactly where it is and when it's coming. So yeah, I think communication to the customer.
And you know what, Rich? You threw up a phenomenal analogy that just popped up. McDonald's, right? Why do people go there? Because of consistency. Their process is repeatable, right? So whether you go to McDonald's in New York or Chicago, that flavor is going to taste the same, right? So that's repeatable experience. That's our customers want that from services as well. That when your technician goes in there, he's executing timely at a optimal cost, and go in there, they want to know that technician that's representing that manufacturer or your technician for your company is that repeatable service that they enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the truth. I mean, it's consistency. Same thing with food. You go in, like you said, you go to your favorite Italian restaurant on Tuesday and get a chicken French edge. You go in on Saturday, you expect it to be the same. Same with technicians. You send someone in to work on a steamer or a combi oven, and these technicians that are going in there, they need to execute the job the same way that this guy would, or this guy would, or this guy would, and get in and get out with quality, efficiency, and on to the next. And then, do the follow-up, do the communication like we're talking about, making sure that it's consistently and running. So yeah, I'm with you on that. So next question I have here is, do you know which techs perform best on specific repairs and which ones need training?
Ask me today, absolutely. Ask me in a past life, you should as a service operational leader, right? But I think it's a great question because I think someone like yourself, Rich, or someone like myself running a large organization, right? You could easily float on the top level and not be so concerned with that individual tech as long as you're bringing in top line and your bottom line profitable, right? The problem with that approach is you could have some opportunity technicians inside your operation that if you're not able to see if they're performing well, you're going to see that they need help, and they could be causing you a lost customer, right? So I think it's critical that operational leaders, either service companies or manufacturers, have the ability to deep dive down to the technician level, right? So
yeah,
I know we all have the data. The problem is, can you get to it quickly without doing a major export out of your CRM system, someone doing some pivot tables? Can you isolate that technician? And is that technician working on maybe your top customer? And if he is, and he's causing your top customer heartache, you need to question, why is he working on that top customer? Or what do I need to train him on, right? So having the ability to have that data at the front, I think is essential to being swift to customer satisfaction.
Yeah, on point. I mean, and there was a discussion earlier this week in the Fed group along the lines of sending technicians out that don't know what they're actually doing. They sent the high limit 2 days, 7 days passed before he got back with the high limit. Then he said he didn't need the high limit. Now he needs a gas valve. Another 2 days passed. Then 3 more days. This was like a 14-day process. Finally, the technician actually told the customer, "You should just replace the unit." And this is all stuff that can be tracked, but we have to have these things in place, and you have to want to know the data, and then with that data, you have to do something with it.
Yeah. So you said earlier, don't feel afraid to plug. So now I'm going to plug, right? So that's a great example, right? And I like to say what we do to differentiate against other BI tools, right? There's a lot of tools out there that can promise you to give you a ton of information, but is that information digestible, and can you navigate as a service leader real simplistically to get to the root cause, right? So that example you talked about is exactly what we solve. So imagine you having a dashboard as a leader to walk into your business and say, you know what, if I lost, here's my top 5 accounts. And if I lost any one of them, it could be churned to my business, right? I don't want that to happen, right? You as a service owner, CEO, right? You would hate to have to lose a top customer that might have an impact on employees, right? You're supporting their livelihood. I know the responsibility you have is a huge burden, right? So yes. Imagine having a dashboard to say, hey, I have a customer that doesn't look at first time fix or cost for repair. It aggregates these key metrics that we have. Mean time between failures, cost per success, first time fix, as well as your response time. And so that example you talked about, a technician going multiple times, is not only mean time between failures reduced, his cost to repair gets high. We aggregate that data to give you a customer risk index. And if a customer risk index hits your radar, you'd want to know. So imagine walking into a dashboard that says, hey, I have a customer that his number just churned up. And then why, right? And then you see why, because mean time between failures are more frequent, he's not getting there fast enough, and his costs are being driven up. But rather than pointing a finger at a technician and saying, wow, he's a bad technician, we're able to say, okay, maybe that technician is struggling on that particular symptom. All his other, abilities are fantastic, but every time he gets called on this specific service issue, he struggles. So rather than sending him out of the field, hey, I send him back to the manufacturer for training, you lose a week, you lose cost, you lose the ability to generate revenue as a service company. Why don't we just coach him and do ride-alongs on specific service issue that we see is problematic from him? And I think that's where we have a tremendous ability to help service companies or manufacturers pinpoint opportunities to be swifter and more agile to satisfy customers quickly.
Yeah. I will say I'm not where I want to be yet with all this technology that's out there. We're slowly getting to the ball rolling with some different things here, with some upgrades. So this is something I know that we are going to need for the future and Roger here made a comment that said, and this is what it's about, like you said, customer experience. Roger Smelser of United Service Technologies says Aquant is our customer experience engine.
Thank you, Roger.
And
it really is, Rich. And you say something very interesting as well, right? I remember joining the food industry, right? And I don't look at it so much as an industry. People talk about services, think about early in your career when I'm trying to navigate where I want to go. I simplify service, and I hate not to downplay it, but I call a service, whether you're working on a widget in a hospital or in a restaurant, right? As a service leader, it's all boils down to the same thing. Can you optimize the quality of your technician? Can you optimize the customer satisfaction? Can you operate your operational costs? Can you navigate your business to ensure you retain customers because you're giving them optimal service? But ideally, switch it from manufacturer to service or both. Can you ensure that your service execution allows you to upsell services? And when you have the ability to talk credibly, data backed up to a customer, you become their partner, right? You're able to isolate, hey, it's not my service. I think I've heard this from you, and I love it, Rich, in the past. It's not always a manufacturer warranty issue, and it's not always that my technician is the issue. Hey, let me show you that every time we come in, it's on this shift. I don't want to point out your operator, but it's indicative that there's a correlation to when this is happening. So maybe you need to train your user to optimize. And when you start consulting with customers that way, I think you're building that relationship of trust. And that trust that you're able to work together to educate, I think, to me, inevitably leads into customer growth and loyalty.
Yeah, and that's the we all talk about how we want to be partners to our customers, and I think in theory we are, and we say we are, but when you add in these deliverables, like Roger was saying here, you're identifying training opportunities with techs in real time. You're identifying customer satisfaction issues before they even occur, and when you could be ahead of the game and you can give the customer this stuff, the transparency, the trust, then you're really building that partnership. And that's what I've been working so hard to get to. We've added so much different technology in the past 6 months. This is probably the next step for us.
Rich, let us help you. But you said something really key, right? A lot of us, even me in the past, right? NPS, the infamous NPS, not a bad metric, probably overplayed. But think about NPS in our world, right? We're so inundated with information. So the only person they're going to fill out those NPS requests, right? Surveys are typically someone who's beyond blown away with extreme service. And in service, that doesn't happen too often, right?
Mm-hmm.
But more typically, they're going to fill it out when they're completely dissatisfied.
Yeah.
And I think what you said is, how do we get in front of that NPS score by measuring events? And again, as I talked about, an aggregate, right? Not just first time fix, not just your cost per repair, but an aggregate view to say, hey, I have a trending issue at my critical customer. Let me address it and then communicate to my customer, I've identified this, FYI, here's what I'm doing to fix it. Wow, you've really impressed that customer that your business.
Yeah, I mean that's the wow. That's the wow, and that's the experience that we want to deliver. See, I get excited thinking about the things that I want to implement. So I gotta, Lisa, put this on the board. We have a vision board here. All the things we're tackling day in and day out. This is something we're gonna be implementing at some point. Now the next question was, is your team prepared for the new demand and the new normal in service? Is your team prepared? What are you thinking on that?
Yeah, fantastic, right? We've seen, being when COVID hit, right? The unfortunate closure of businesses, lost businesses, it's very unfortunate, right? And then the creativity that resulted of this, right? We can't afford to stay closed. So what can we do, right? Ghost kitchens were created, right? So despite this COVID pandemic, as a manufacturer, we did pretty darn well. And towards the back end, and let's call it closure towards this pandemic, right? Or I hope we're all optimistic about this. You're starting to see ramp up in unit sales again, right? The activity, services are going up because you see people are using the equipment. So you ask the question, are you ready for it, right? And I think it's easy to say, let me bring my people back on, right? Let me put my head count to the same. But me being operationally minded it's the efficiency. So we talked about that technician who went out 3, 4, or 5 times. That's the opportunity, right? Because you never have enough techs, you have tech churn, but imagine having a tech who has a high effectiveness first time fix and a high mean time between failures. That's a quality technician. You might look as a high technician who has a high first time fix rate, but his mean time between failures is half of that other guy. What does that mean? Maybe he's not doing a total call. He's going in for that symptom, but didn't identify a couple other fixes, which means that his mean time between failure is quicker. So having the ability to navigate, right, not just react to your technician services, but look historically at your technician effectiveness, to me creates bandwidth, right? So it's essential that you're looking as a service leader, are my technicians optimal? And if they're not, it's not punitive. How can I help them? And again, let's not send them in a training week. You can't afford that. It's hard to. Sometimes you have to, but rather let's identify where he needs that help. And every time you do that, you're taking a step towards improving your operations, which means, hey, you're securing that loyalty with your customer, you're generating more revenue, and you're generating customer loyalty and satisfaction.
Yeah, and that's really what this boils down to as well. I mean, we're training our technicians, and if we have these boxes that we can check off, looking and drilling it down, like it's not necessarily he's a bad tech, but there's, like you said, there's certain things that he might just not be delivering on, and we could fix that. We could see it. If we can't see it, we can't fix it. And I think
techs are proud, right? Techs are proud. They may not tell you that they need help, right? So as a leader, it's your job to identify that and be constructive with it, be positive about it, because they may never want to reach out. I'm afraid to call my partner because then, you know what I mean? You know how it is. And that's unfortunate. So use the tools to help navigate and fix that, right?
Yeah, and it's about improving. And that's what, when you have, if we could actually see it, we could actually improve it. We're, especially being a small business, now we're at, and listen, we had 6, 7 guys when I took over, and now we're at 15. So starting in,
congratulations.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's been great. And as we continue to build, I can't keep flying blind. I need to start to reel some things in. When you had 6, 7 guys, it's like, okay, I think I have a little handle on this. But the more you build, it gets away from you, and we're gonna need to actually have these KPIs in place. We're gonna have to have all these metrics. We're gonna have to have all these things to look at, because you can't run and with blinders on and be successful, or at least as successful as you could be, because we're leaving so much on the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
So next thing here, what's the best way to prevent service and customer disasters before they happen?
Yeah, so we kind of talked about it, but I love it. Preventing it is knowing what's happening. So those that know me, maybe listening, I use this term, right? Let's not boil the ocean, right? And I don't know how many customers you have, Rich, or for anyone listening, right? Every customer inevitably is important to you, and you can't deny that. But not every customer brings you the same top line importance to your business, right? So you need to really be mature about, using that 80-20 mentality to make sure that those folks who bring you the most revenue are getting the best services. Start there. So bring those folks to the forefront, right? And ensuring that you prevent them from leaving is by having what I say, that easy dashboard navigation to put those critical customers to your forefront and to monitor the events of your services. And again, that aggregate approach, not your benchmark, how's my business running overall, first time fix, how's my cost per visit. Those are good metrics, but it's that aggregate of what the customer experience is, right? And the customer experience says, hey, they're effective, but they take twice as long as they used to. What happened, right? Is it a technician capacity? You as a leader should be able to identify that, right? Why is that technician taking a week now? Hey, scheduling team, what's going on? Are you overbooking him, right? So it's that aggregate view to say, because one of those 4 or 5 metrics has caused my customer risk to go up, and having the ability to see that, not just at one metric, but an aggregate view says, I'm spiking up my customer risk, and now I can see why, is going to put you at the forefront to avoid a customer being dissatisfied.
Yeah. And I, when we look at what this is really all about, it's really about the success of our, not just our company, but our customers, because their success is our success. And, this is next level stuff for the food equipment service industry. That's kind of, I feel, we've all been behind the curve of what's coming. And I think things are starting to arrive. So this conversation that we're having, to all the people out there watching, if you have any questions, please throw them in the comment box right now. Please throw them in the comment box right now. This is the next necessary step in elevating transparency, trust, fixing plugging the leaks that we might have. And our customer experience is everything. I mean, going back to the beginning, talking about the Amazons and the Ubers, this is where we want to be in the service industry, and this is the differentiator.
Absolutely.
I say all the time in here, I say, listen, there's a dozen companies in the tri-state area that are riding around that say they're factory authorized, they're part of Safesa, they have all the same parts on their vans. What are we doing that's so different? We have to be different. So if we're ahead of the curve and we're showing the customer, hey, look, we found this out through our AI solutions, man, that changes the partnership.
I think you nailed it, right? It's that proactive approach that tells to your customer, I am on top of my business. I am monitoring my business. I have your total cost. I have your uptime at the forefront as well as you do. I want to be your long-term partner, right? I want to keep you as my customer. And when you're able to navigate and illustrate, hey, you're in full control. And let's face it, we all have mishaps, but you're able to go in front of them and say, I've identified this, and here's what I've done about it. Wow. Right, that customer will say, man, Rich really cares about me, right? That manufacturer really cares about me. He knows my business. And that's where we need to be, right? Less about services. Inevitably, you have firefights all day long, right? But we need to step away from that day-to-day grind and look at, where are my strengths and weaknesses in my business? And when I have weaknesses, what am I doing to fix those? What am I doing to address those, right? Is it at a specific manufacturer? Is it a specific service type? But having that data readily available will help you become less reactive and more strategic.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, for me, that's major for me. Because even here, say, listen, make sure we call these customers, let them know before they call us.
Yes,
we want to be ahead of it. That's the game changer. So for people watching out there, I want to plug Aquant. I want people to know about this. If they want to get the ball rolling, can they reach out to you? Where should we go? What should we do?
Yeah, please visit us. You can email me. Maybe you can put that in a chat somehow. Someone can help me. Sidney.Lara@aquant.io. Yeah, please. I would love to guide you into show you better insight on how this product works, right? So when we went to market, we all talked about a product called Triage, right? Triage was our ability to identify what we call challenger technicians versus heroes, right? And that was our core of our product. We have evolved into much more, right? And we have a platform called Service Intelligence, right? And I think that elevates it to the next level, which gets you into that strategic position. Not only are you looking at performances and customer risk, it allows you to say who needs training, what do they need training on, as well as looking at assets, right? So if you're servicing 10 manufacturers, right, and you see that 2 of them are constantly at risk, why are those 2 at risk, right? Is it my technicians weren't trained well enough on that? So we have the ability to, I hate to sound cliche, peel that onion back to give you specific insight versus generalities, right? And I think that's where we differentiate from a lot of BI tools, is a simplicity of our user interface to help service leaders have immediate insight, ideally, so they're seeing, I see a weakness and here's my actions to overcome them.
Yeah. So, and then listen, we have the email there, and this, I would say this is all custom. I mean, for a company, I mean, obviously my company, Malachy, versus, maybe Coker Service out in the Midwest. I mean, we all are run essentially the same, but we all run very differently. So, I mean, obviously there's probably different, everything's gonna be custom, I would imagine.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's what you would want to do, right? Like we talked about earlier. Do you want to put everything and boil the ocean and worry about that account that you have 1 PM with a year? Or do you want to put to the forefront the ones that are driving, your top line and making sure that they're at the forefront of your dashboard and say, I'm going to make sure at all costs that they never become a customer risk, right? And how do I avoid that catastrophe? And yeah, you can customize it just so you ensure that you're bringing them to the forefront. I think that's critical.
Yeah, awesome. So, I mean, Roger came up here. I don't know if this is an actual question, but he said, my favorite question is, what is your strategy for that? So I don't know. I don't know if he's. I think that might just be a general thing. But yeah, I mean, what you got? Somebody said? Oh. All right. Well, listen. If we have no more questions, we know where to find you. We're excited for what Aquant is going to probably do for the industry, and yeah, I'm excited to get the ball rolling at some point this year, talking about how we can start utilizing this. So, any closing words for the food equipment service industry?
No, it's a small world. Thank you for those listening now and or later. Thank you, Rich, for having me on here. I think collectively as partners, we can all improve as partners, right? Leveraging technologies, leveraging experiences. So let's keep the community going and let's continue to rock. Awesome. I love it, Sidney. Thank you for the time. Yeah. Thanks to Courtney behind the scenes, getting this together with us, and the whole team at Aquant. Really, for sure, Courtney. I couldn't survive without her. So thank you, Courtney. Yeah, thank you, Courtney. Appreciate you guys. And listen, I think we should do this again, maybe later in the year. Absolutely. After the world opens up, we'll maybe reconvene and see how the whole year, the summer, and everything played out for everyone. Yeah, absolutely. Love to do it. Yeah, awesome. All right, Sidney, appreciate you. Thank you. Have a great day. Likewise, Rich. Talk to you soon. Thank you, everyone. All right. Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Fed Nation, everywhere. This was a good one, Lisa. This was a good one because I know that, like I said, you don't know what you don't know. If you don't know what's out there, if you don't know what exists, how can you even think about implementing it? And like I said, sometimes, in the food equipment service world, we sit in our offices, we're in our bubble, we're we got the horse blinders on and we're just running the day to day. But this is an eye opener on how you can be a different, how you can separate yourself from the pack. And there's probably people out there saying, I don't need it. And you know what? There are. Well, there definitely are. And I think there's other people like me saying, I know I need this because I want to be the best in my market. I want to be the best. How do I be the best? I put the best tools to use. And it's scary. I want to end it with this. I know it's scary when you don't know what
like when you're implementing new technology and you don't know things, it's scary.
The unknown is scary.
Yeah, the fear of the unknown. But you know, you didn't know how to drive and you learned how to do that. You know, all these different analogies. So it's just one of those things. If you want it and you want to, you know, separate yourself and differentiate yourself, that's what we're about here at Malachy. We're going to keep trying to be part of that innovative crew in the industry with like my man Roger and Josh. We want to be at the forefront of that. You should want to be at the forefront of that. We're fired up on a Thursday morning, Lisa.
Oh gosh, you're screaming.
Some people's eardrums out.
Yes, you did.
Listen, I got to wake them up. We got to go kill the day now. Let's go crush this day. Make it count. Tomorrow's Friday. I will see you mañana. Have a beautiful day.